I am extremely happy to be able to welcome to the show today for the very first time, Julie Derron. How are you, Julie?
I'm very good. Thank you very much for having me. And it's been short notice, but I'm really excited to chat.
Well, see, both of us were ready at the drop of a hat to get this interview done. I was thinking when I sent you the message, I was thinking, okay, well, I'll give her enough time. She hasn't actually opened her season just yet. She's probably in the middle of a massive training block. And you said, how about tomorrow?
Yeah, that's how it goes. In our training, we don't plan too far ahead. So about 2 days ago, I got the note that today would be a rest day. So I
Ah,
thought, why not make the most of it and have a chat? And
yeah,
with the time difference from China to New Zealand, it just worked out great.
yeah.
And I'm glad you're spontaneous.
Yeah, no problems. Happy to do it. You're Olympic silver medalist and quite a storied middle distance career. Of course, I'm going to jump when someone says they're ready to have a chat on the podcast. And as I said to you, my biggest concern was whether the recording invite would go through the Chinese internet security system. Okay, so I'm glad that we didn't have to go through or jump through any hoops to be able to connect today. Rest day though, in your training block. Where's the training block heading? We're all waiting for Julie Duron to actually start her season. So, has there been a few more delays than you would have hoped for?
Yeah, I guess with the seasons getting longer and longer and only finishing mid-December, the beginning of this year, I really needed some downtime, more so than I realized. I thought like, oh, I'm ready to go again really quickly, but then I got sick and yeah, just realized that my body needed a bit more time and also my mind needed a bit more time to
Yeah,
just get back into the swing of things. Also, we spent so much time abroad away from home, so I was really enjoying to at least spend like 4 or 5 weeks in Zurich, where home is for me personally, before I did the trip over to China to really start working towards this year, or this season. And yeah, now we're just under 2 weeks away from my first race, and then I'm really, yeah, excited to start the season. I'm doing a local race in Shanghai, and then I'm going to challenge Taiwan the weekend after. So yeah, new races for me, and that's really exciting as well.
okay. I can't tempt you to be able to disclose at what race in the summer you might be heading towards an Ironman. Do you have a few European Ironmans, maybe?
Yeah, definitely. I'll be aiming at a European Ironman to try and qualify for Kona this year, and to then after that, for hopefully successful qualification, work towards racing on the Big Island.
Okay. I do want to go back to and talk about obviously your short course career for sure, but just before we finish up, just briefly talking about this year and what may lie ahead of you. Always dreamed of Kona. It's been something that you've known about as a triathlete and wanted last year, a little bit disappointing having qualified but not being able to race. But you really do want to go and see what this hype is all about.
Yeah, definitely. When I think back, growing up, I feel like I always was a triathlete from a really young age on, and we would watch triathlons with the family. And probably two of the first memories of watching triathlon on TV is watching the Ironman in Hawaii and watching the Beijing Olympic Games. So those two milestones are really on my mind, and I achieved one really big one with Paris in 2024, and now I'm aiming to, yeah, see for myself the Big Island. My sister raced there already 2 times, and yeah, has just spoken about how special it is, and I almost get goosebumps now thinking about it, and it's something that really excites me.
Okay, yeah, that's awesome. I love that. But I mean, and I had to ask you this before we started recording. I didn't know if it was the end of the short course career, and you've had such a successful sort of foray into the middle distance, and as you say, qualified for Kona, done a couple of Ironmans now. I suspected, that was the short course career was behind you, but you are going to tell us something different. You're not absolutely sure just yet.
Yeah, it's not decided officially. I think after an Olympic Games in 2025, I got the chance to race the T100 series as a contracted athlete. So that really dictated my year. And then also wanting to do another Ironman, because the first one I did in 2022 was very underprepared. So wanted to be better prepared for the next one. And then I didn't qualify, I qualified for Hawaii, but didn't really get to race there. So this year I want to achieve that, and then afterwards really decide where the next couple of years in my career are headed. But never say never for LA. I mean, I just love the triathlon, whatever distance, and so we'll see.
Okay. You've done it smartly, though, because I guarantee you the money that you've made in your middle and long course career is far better than what you made in your short course career. And if you can keep those sponsors and go back to short course racing, it's the perfect it's the perfect way to do it, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, for me, the middle distance has been really successful, and it's also some, racing that I really enjoy. And of course, I feel like, except if you're at the very, very, very top constantly in short course, you're not earning as much as you could in middle distance. So I think
Yeah.
for me, I found a really good balance to be really successful in short course, but then also be able to have good races in middle distance, which, is of course really important as an athlete also to be able to afford a career, to make your money,
Yeah.
and to be able to afford your livelihood. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Well, your name is now up there. There's been some pretty famous Swiss female triathletes in that time, and you probably know a few of them.
I do, definitely. And for me, sometimes I'm still thinking, like Nicola, Daniela, Natasha, they're such big
Yeah.
names. And then to think that I also have an Olympic medal and could be close up there is pretty surreal still for me. And it's something I'm really proud of.
Yeah, yeah. And look, some have had influences on your career as well. Working with Brett Sutton at the moment may not have come around had you not had a Nicola Sprig in Switzerland or a Daniela Reef as such.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, Nicola brought Brett to Switzerland to some extent, and also made the first connection between him and my middle sister that actually started working with Brett first. And then I could just tag along for a year and see a little bit about what it's about. And then actually at the end of 2015, start of 2016, I joined the squad. And since then I've been part of the Trisada group. And it's been really helpful for me at the start of the career just to observe Nicola and Daniela and all the other athletes in the squad, that how they go about their business, how they go about their training. And then of course also I did quite a few training sessions with Nicola, getting my butt handed to me from her at the beginning, but then inching closer and closer. And that's, it's been really important for me and my development, and just, it's been really great.
Okay. Well, no pressure, but that decision about returning to short course, I think it sort of happens or has to happen this year, really, doesn't it, if you choose to do it?
Yeah, definitely. I do have my road bike with me in China, so I could actually also jump into some races here if they fit with the overall plan. But I feel like in my squad or with Brett and the coaching staff, I am really well set up to go back if I decide to. And
Yeah.
I really want to see what I can do also in Ironman with a bit
Yeah.
more preparation, and then decide what I really want to do.
Yeah.
And I
Well, if
think
you
it's been really surprising to a few people, and also a little bit to me, how successful my first Olympic Games were. So you never know how that shapes up, and what the future brings. But I'm really enjoying it still, and also enjoying the challenge of longer distance for now. But never, as I said before, never say never about going back to another Olympic Games, because those are really, really special.
Yeah, yeah. Also, being in China and being within the Chinese Federation in terms of training with them day to day within that environment, it's something that Brett negotiated when he took up the Chinese role. You were only racing short course at the time, but bringing some international athletes into that training environment in the short course was going to be a benefit, but you've stayed on and you still continue to train in that environment. So you're still pretty closely associated with short course in some respect, aren't you?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I feel like Brett's training for long and short course isn't that much different. Of course, like
Yeah.
the long rides are a little bit longer, the runs also. But for example, the swim sessions I do all with the short course athletes, and a lot of the track run sessions I also do with the short course athletes. So it works really well because I just have a really good group around me. Also, my sister is here who does long course, so we can also do the long rides together. But I still get a lot of support, especially in the swim sessions, because the Chinese, they're really good swimmers, so they can push me in that regard. So yeah, and also for me, it's really important to see Brett personally because now he is based in China. So if I want to work with him on a daily basis, like see him every day, I have to come here, which I'm willing to do, and I'm also happy to do because the setup here works really well, especially over the winter time in Europe. Here we get great conditions. We get altitude without the cold conditions, without the snow. So that's
Yeah.
just benefits, and especially at the beginning of the year, a lot of the races are also happening around this part of the world. So it just makes the traveling a lot easier as well.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I want to take you back because it isn't that long ago, the Olympics, and the memories that you must have from that day. They must give you goosebumps. You talk about thinking about Kona, and you start to get goosebumps of the anticipation of what might happen. But I'm sure when you reflect back on that those Olympics, and the build towards them, although I suspect there might have been an eye on what happens after the Olympics? Because I think you finished off your build towards the Olympics with two half distance races.
Yeah, I did. That's also sort of a blueprint that I followed from past champions. So I know that Nicola definitely before London, also before Rio, she did a couple of middle distance races, and that really worked well for me as well. Just to give me strength, to give me endurance, to give me some confidence going into the race in Paris. And yeah, I think the whole build up there was really successful. It worked out really well. Of course, looking back, I forget all the struggles I had in that build up too, but the results showed that we did the right thing. We trained really well. We prepared as best as I could, and I was lucky enough to have the best day of my career on the most important day. So
Yeah.
you don't get it, or not a lot of athletes get that. And for me to be able to put down the performance I knew I was capable of is super special.
Yeah, yeah. I don't know if you're going to be able to sell that blueprint to a whole lot of other athletes, but Brett's always had his own way to prepare athletes as such. Although I will be interested going into LA to see how many athletes knock out a couple of half Ironmans in their final races. But you had followed it prior to those two half Ironmans with a couple of World Cups and WTCS races. When did you sort of get a sense that your run in particular was trending in that direction? Because, a few races before that, it was in the mid 33s and maybe a 34 something. But on the day, as you mentioned, on the big day, it certainly all came together and you produced, a career defining run. And then the training that went into that, did anything change to just get that extra bit out of you?
I don't think so. I think it's been a gradual progression. Actually, in 2023, at the start of that year, I had a stress fracture that took me out of running and cycling for 2 to 3 months. So,
Yeah.
of course, then I wasn't qualified yet. So it was a bit of a, let's say, stressful period just to be able to get back to racing to get back into a shape to actually make the qualification criteria that our federation had set up. But I managed to qualify or hit the criteria by the end of 2023. So when I achieved that, we just focused on getting myself as fit as possible until July 2024. Even though I wasn't officially qualified yet, we treated it as though I had been. And then, I guess it was really just a gradual progression. But I'm really happy also how I made a big jump in my run from probably 2023 until summer of 24. When I think probably in May, I did a World Cup in China, in Chengdu, that I won on the run. And there I had a really good run. And also I felt really good. So I feel like there it was probably the first time I realized, hey, my run has really done, or I've stepped up my run. And then a couple of weeks after that, I raced in Yokohama, where I really narrowly missed out on making the first pack, but I had one of the quickest runs on that day. So I was like, oh, that's really positive. And I also kind of saw what was my mistake of not making that front pack. So that gave me also confidence that if I tweaked those things, that I could make the front pack and that I was able to run with some of the quickest girls. And I think after that, I didn't really do any short course racing anymore, but I did, as you mentioned, a couple of half Ironmans, and there I had really good runs as well. So that just, I think grew my confidence. But of course, going into Paris, I didn't really know what to expect, because I feel like before that, I hadn't really raced at the front of the WTCS races. I had never been in a run battle with Beth or Cassandra or Emma. So going into the race, we made a plan and I stuck to that plan, but was also a little bit surprised that no one wanted to go faster than me. So that was actually quite nice.
Well, the run was certainly trending in the right direction, because you're in the middle of a build towards the Olympics, and you go to Ironman Switzerland 70.3 and you knock out a 1:13, and then you go on to Challenge Walshy and knock out a 1:12. So for, female middle distance triathletes, they would have been looking at those run times going, wow. And the strength endurance that you would have taken away from those into the Olympics certainly sort of bore fruit once you got to the Olympics. Without giving away any special secret sauce or anything like that, is there one workout that you feel within Brett's program that really works for you on the run? Are you a high volume runner, or do you feel that it's the intensity that he brings to the table? And if so, was there one session that you felt really, really helped you?
Yeah, I think in terms of volume or intensity, I think I'm probably a bit of a mix. We usually have in almost all run sessions some sort of intensity, so I hardly ever run just easy for an hour or so. And then in terms of specific run sessions, for the last 5-6 years, one of my staples has been 150 meters on the track, fast, followed by 50 meters recovery, and done between 30 to 60 times. So it varies a lot. And then another one would be the 800s that I've already talked about as well. And those are probably, some of my main run sessions that I would do, and that just I know what times to hit there to also gauge how my fitness is at that moment.
Talk to me about the moment in time when you get to the run in the Olympics, and that mistake that you say happened in Yokohama by not making the front pack had been rectified at this point, and we get off and start the run. Was that How did you deal with that mentally at the time? Because you were you were the aggressor at a lot of times. There were a lot of moves that you were going. I mean, that takes a lot of confidence, and confidence is generally born from the fact that you knew the legs were there for you that day.
Yeah, I actually, now thinking about it, I don't remember how my legs felt, but coming off the bike, but I must have felt good. We made the plan to have a really good T2, start the run in the front, and then see what happens. I'm sort of a runner that uses a lot of rhythm, so
Yeah.
I need to get into my rhythm on the run quickly, and then I can usually just hold that rhythm. And so the idea was to start the run fast and see if someone comes past me. If they come past me, I try to hang on. And I started the run. I think Cassandra probably came past me at about 400-500 meters into the run, and I settled in there. But then I don't quite like running behind people, so I paused her back to take the lead and just really tried to run my rhythm, and was surprised that no one wanted to go faster. So I thought, well, if no one wants to go faster, I feel really comfortable with the pace I'm running right now, so I'll just keep running and see what happens. And on the run course at the Olympic Games, I think just at the end of one lap, there was a U-turn. So before that, you couldn't really see where anyone else was. And during the first lap, we got to that U-turn, and I saw, okay, there was the four of us, and we already had gapped the other girls. So I just kept running and running, and we stayed together. And then I think before the race, I told my coach, like, regardless of the position I'm running in, if I'm running with someone, where do I have to attack? Because he keeps telling me I'm not a sprinter, and I also know that I'm not very, very fast. I don't quite have that leg speed, so to say, so I couldn't leave it to a 200-meter sprint. And he's like, yeah, you have to go with a bit more time, or a bit more distance. You have to go in that moment. But that was a bit on my mind. So I was like, okay, we're still four of us into lap 3, I guess. And I was like, or even before that, I was like, I'm running with Beth and Cassandra and Emma. I'm going to get fourth because they're so much better than me. But then I had a moment like, no, you're leading the race. It's the Olympic Games. You're not going to get fourth. So I really tried to turn that around and really believed in myself as well during that run. And going on to the last lap, I just had a glance over, running through transition, and I saw Brett, and he was like waving his arms, shouting something. And because it was so noisy in Paris with all the spectators, I had no idea what he was telling me. But I was like, well, I think he's telling me I have to go now because we're still four. I'm not a sprinter.
Is that 2.5 Ks to go?
Yeah, exactly. And I was like, okay, I think he's trying to tell me something, and he's trying to tell me to pick it up. And I believe I tried to do that, and probably started to put the other girls a bit under pressure. And then with about a mile to go, Cassandra attacked, but not really attacked, just gradually pulled away.
Yeah.
And I tried to follow, but she was just a bit too quick, or I don't know. Yeah, I couldn't keep up with her, but because she accelerated, it actually splintered our group. And I was like, okay, just keep running, don't look back, just focus on going, because as I said, it was so noisy, so I didn't even hear footsteps if they were behind me or not. And then I got to that U-turn at the end of the lap, probably like 300 meters from the finish, and I saw no one was behind me. So I was like, oh my gosh, I'm going to get an Olympic medal. I'm going to get second. And I was like, but maybe I can get first. So I just tried to sprint to the finish line, but obviously Cassandra was too far ahead. But that was just such an unbelievable moment to actually, even before the finish, to do that turnaround and see that I was in second place with a gap to third. That was, really crazy. And it's like, okay, now just get to the finish line. Don't mess this up now.
Well, I'm pretty sure you would have received some messages from some of those heroes of yours, the other Swiss ladies and female athletes that have actually done so well at all distances, and to see your name up there as well at the Olympics, it certainly must have been something that almost overcame you.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it was really special also to see Nicola at the finish line because she was in
Yeah,
Paris that day. I think she might have even given the start signal for our
yeah,
race, or just opened the session on that day. So I saw her really quickly after the race, and she was super excited as well. I mean, she's followed my career since I really started out in triathlon, and she's been a big mentor for me. So to see her there was super special. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. Now, you finish the Olympic Games, it's almost like you pack your short course suitcase and put it in the wardrobe because, boom, everyone's talking about this pro tri organization and these T100 races. And I'm sure you were thinking, heck, especially given, what you'd done in the number of half distance races to date. Was the intention always to get through Paris and have no plan, or get through Paris and, well, let's give a few of these middle distance races a go?
Yeah, we really planned until Paris.
Yeah.
That was the focus, and I wasn't really sure what came after. We actually did plan or commit to one race about a month after in China, Challenge Beijing. It was Olympic non-drafting. And we've just put it on the calendar because I had the opportunity to go and figured why not just set a
And
race.
it pays a good amount of money as
Yeah,
well.
I think it did. And so that was on the calendar, and but the focus was really on Paris. But after
Yeah.
that, I think Brett probably reached out to the PTO to see if I could get a start for Ibiza, and that was really exciting for me. I was actually very, very nervous for that race because I was
Yeah.
unsure how it would go. Racing those middle distance ladies, probably my second or third race on a TT bike, not knowing how it'll go and everything, and just also, yeah, just venture into something new. But that race actually was really fun. But the other day, the PTO reminded me that I also got a penalty there, so that wasn't
Yes.
my finest hour. But I still had a great race. I had another really good run. I came second, and that was really exciting for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, you just dip into the T100. You go second in Ibiza, second in Vegas, I think second at the championship final as well. Come down to my part of the world, Topor, for the
Beautiful
world
part of the
champs.
world. Yeah.
Did you enjoy Topor?
I
Did you have fun at the world champs?
Yeah, I did. I mean, it's such a beautiful place. Actually, at the beginning of this year, looking at the calendar, we were considering doing Ironman New Zealand, but I didn't
Wow.
quite work out. So, but I think that race I'll put it on my bucket list. It's such a beautiful course, a beautiful
Okay.
place. New Zealand is really a special country. I've only been once, but I want to go back. So yeah, then I did the World Champs in Topo, which was really exciting and also just a really nice way to end a really big year for me. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, like I say, it's the money started rolling in. Like the T100. All of a sudden, second place at all those races, you get the fifth at the World Champs. Pretty sure whatever TT bike you were on at the time, it wasn't the Canyon that you were riding by the end of the year.
No, and until the end of 2024, I was riding a BMC and I was supported
Yep.
by them. But of course, yeah, I was lucky enough that at the beginning of the 2024, I decided that it would be time for me to get a manager because something in
Yeah.
me told me that it could be a big year. So I started working with Ronnie at the beginning of 2024. And then after my Olympic success, of course, he could take over a lot of negotiations and extend my partnership with On and find some new partners for my future. And I'm really grateful to have that support. And of course, that's also part of being a professional triathlete. There's a business side to it as well, but I'm glad to have someone else handle those things for me, and I can focus more on the training and the racing.
Yeah, yeah. Well, very smart move, because any commercial sponsorships that came in were only going to be the icing on the cake on what was a very successful 2025 across the T100 series, becoming a contracted athlete, racing and being virtually, I think maybe Singapore and London were the only times that you weren't on the podium, taking 4 victories, and going into the grand final in with a chance of actually winning the overall. What are your memories of 2025?
Yeah, 2025 was also, I didn't go into it with such a big plan because 24 was such a big year, but I knew that I was going to race the T100 series as a contracted athlete. I earned that the year before with racing the T100 at the back end of 2024. So those races really gave the sort of the schedule or the backbone of my year, and then we just wanted to see what else we could fit around it. It had always been the idea to do an Ironman if it fit in, and then it took me a while again to get into the year. Singapore was a difficult race. I think I was quite well prepared. I showed a really good swim, but then mentally I think I wasn't quite ready to go to my limit.
You and about 3/4 of the rest of the female field.
So
it caught so many people.
Yeah, it's a really tough race to start the year, and if you're not 100% on, you're just it's a struggle. And it was quite difficult to accept that race, just because I'm so used to being full gas, always fighting for every second, and I wasn't able to do that in that race. But I came away from Singapore and really got to work, and then managed to win in San Francisco the next race, take the first T100 win, and that was super exciting, and just a really nice comeback from a not so great start to the year. And then I did Vancouver 2 weeks after that, and just had a really great trip there as well. In London I came fourth, but I also know that there, I think I raced Ironman Victoria 4 weeks before, and just felt like I hadn't quite recovered enough to race at the speeds that we are racing now in the T100, because they are getting faster and faster as well, getting closer to Olympic distance style of racing. So there, in those races with the best girls around, you just have to be definitely on top of everything.
Yeah. Well, you mentioned Vittoria Gasteiz, the Ironman that you won and went into qualifying for Kona. And I think anyone who's come through, let's say, Brett Sutton's stable as a female athlete, once they step up to the full distance, everyone believes that they're going to turn up with the skills and the toolkit to be able to perform very well at that. He's had great success with full distance athletes as well. And your second tilt at running a marathon, you mentioned off the back of typical training, Brett sends you to Italy in 2022 and you end up doing an Ironman. You went under 3 hours there, but you went under a lot further in Vittoria Gasteiz with a 2:51, and an 8:21 overall. So a very strong bike ride there as well. 4:31 for the bike ride shows how well you were riding. When you think on to the full distance where Kona's concerned, I'm sure that there's even more progression that you're going to hope for. And the dreams that you must have are of winning on the Big Island.
2022, you mentioned my first Ironman. I actually did that one on a road bike, just with clip-on bars. I didn't even possess a TT bike there. That was yeah, short notice. I think uh, I raced quite well that year, but for us in Switzerland, they didn't start counting our short course results yet for the qualification for the Olympic Games, and I wasn't too happy about it because I was like, well, what's the point of racing short course now if they don't even count our races? And then out
Yeah.
of the blue, I told Brett like, well, I might as well just do an Ironman, because it doesn't matter. And then he took it a bit too literal, and I ended up doing an Ironman. But
How much notice did he give you? Because I remember back in the day, and this is way back, 10, 15 years ago, when he had a whole host of athletes, including Chrissy Wellington. Athletes would be told on sometimes only a week's notice that they were on the start list for an Ironman. You mentioned that his training methodology is such sort of that outside of just extending some of the long sessions, the meat and potatoes of the quality work is not that dissimilar from short course to middle distance as such. So he sort of has athletes ready to go at a moment's notice. Is that a good way to describe Italy?
well, I think I had a bit more than a week. I probably had about 4 weeks or so, but it was quite short notice. But I think there's Brett's way of coaching and his training methodology, but also I as a person, I think I'm quite well suited to the longer distances. I feel like I'm quite an efficient athlete. So when I get my rhythm, I can usually hold it for a long time if I feed myself properly. And so I think that played together in me stepping up and being quite successful from the start. And then Vittoria Gasteiz, I did a couple more long rides. I did a few more long runs before that race, and I also did the race on a TT bike, of course. So I actually also had a flat in that race, so that cost me a bit of time in the bike, and I was out there all by myself because it was a smaller pro field, just the pro women. I had no idea where I was compared to the other girls. I knew that I was in the lead, but I didn't know by how much. And I also knew that Annie Haug was in the race. So it's like always felt a bit chased by her. But the goal on that day was just to finish it as well as possible and try to qualify for Hawaii. We did a bit of a rough plan for the race, but it was also, Brett also told me to actually not race on the marathon, to just finish the race and not want to pick up the pace or run a certain time, just do the job. And that race is another one that I could really recommend. The crowds in Vittoria Gasteiz, they're amazing on the run course. The whole course, it's a 4-lap course, and almost everywhere you have spectators that are cheering. It could be a grandma walking to lunch, but she is getting invested in that race, and so it was a really nice experience to race there.
Okay. If 2022 we're on a road bike with clip-on handlebars, what we're saying here, Julie, is that you haven't had a TT bike for a long period of time. Now, again, I'm going to talk from looking in from the outside because I've seen Brett talk about his approach to becoming a more stronger and efficient cyclist. It's probably not what everyone would think in terms of, optimizing aerodynamic fit and concerning themselves too much with the technical and equipment side of things. But being on a canyon, I'm sure we get a lot of support there. A lot of low cadence work for building up that strength for your time trialing.
There definitely is, that is part of our training, the low cadence work, the sort of our gym workouts that are not done in the gym, but actually on the bike where we need it. But also, I think Brett has a good eye to see what different athletes need. So for me, I also do quite a bit of work on the race cadence just to dial that one in, because if I do too much big gear work, low cadence work, I tend to drop my cadence a bit too much also when riding sort of normally. So there is a balance, and of course the goal is to become stronger on the bike, but also more efficient. And stepping up from short course to middle distance and long course, I know that the bike is a really big focus point, and also where at the start I lost quite a bit of time. In 2024 I kept losing 6 minutes on the bike to Taylor Nip. So that's something that even a really, really good runner can't make up on the run. And so that's definitely something we are working on.
Well, certainly. And I think when you look at the performances, because you sort of only had one sort of season middle distance racing and a couple of Ironmans under your belt, I'm sure you're looking at what does it take for the females that are operating at the top end of the sport at the full distance, and the times that they're putting down on the bike at the moment. Like you say, it's one thing being an exceptional runner, but you can't afford to give up so much time on the bike. And if you look at someone like a Taylor Nibb and what Lucy Charles-Barclay and even Solveig Losthe did in Kona, you're certainly going to need to be on your game once it comes to time trialing over the full Ironman distance.
Yeah, definitely. And that's something I feel like short course athletes, before they try the longer distances, they are not quite aware of how hard the bike is done. And also that it is something different to ride 80, 90, 180K by yourself and keep the pressure on for that amount of time. So that's definitely something that, short course athletes have to learn when they want to go long. But I think there's also, as you mentioned before, the development with all the equipment, with the testing, etc. So even though Brett is quite old school, that's something we are not just forgetting. We are just doing our, finding whatever works best for us. We might not be extending our arms out as much as other people because we know that, we also need to be able to run off the bike. And so we just try to find whatever works best for us. And as you mentioned, I get a lot of support as well to figure that out.
Have you been in the wind tunnel yet?
I have not been to the wind tunnel yet. It might happen this year, but I've been to the velodrome earlier this year, and so I did find out some things.
Okay, all right. Because Brett has not just a methodology to his prescription of training as such, but also some thoughts in and around position on the bike, so that we're not compromising the other disciplines, that one that we've come from, the swim, and the one that we're heading to, the bike as well. So like you say, he's looking at some of the positions that a lot of athletes are typically trying to ride these days, but he may not agree completely that it's going to serve the run well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. But then again, I mean, I'm going to be sitting on the bike differently than a person or a woman who's 180 tall, or a man who's, 65 kilos. So there's always those individual differences to consider. And I think it's just a process to find out what works best for me to be as quick and as aerodynamic on the bike, but then also be able to produce my best run off the bike.
Yeah, and you're a short course athlete who's done very few races at 12 meters. The majority of your races have going to middle and long course have either been T100s. And I'm probably thinking we could count on one hand how many 12-meter draft rule races you've had. And what we're going to find, obviously, when we start this year is, the chances are 90% of what you're going to do now is at 20 meters. So you really have to be really strong on the bike as a result of that.
Yeah, definitely. I feel like the couple of Ironmans I was mostly by myself on the bike, so there it didn't matter that much. But of course, racing the T100, I got quite a bit of experience with the 20-meter draft rule. As I mentioned in the first race, I didn't quite get that right with the race ranger, so I had to stand still for a minute. But I learned the lesson.
Thank you, the T100, for actually posting that, because I saw that the other day. just a reminder.
Just a reminder, not the most nice one, but
yeah.
No. So I learned quite quickly how to ride with the race ranger, and also what it means to ride with 20 meters. I think when I raced in Topo, we had the 12-meter draft rule, and that was almost, it felt weird to be so close, so to say, to the people in front of us. So I think it's actually really good that all the races are getting standardized now with the 20 meters. I think with the speeds we're going at, or especially the men, that it was really needed to increase the draft rule or the distance. And I think it's also quite helpful to have the race ranger to actually enforce it properly, because as a person riding on the bike with 40 km per hour, it's impossible to judge by eye what 20 meters is. So I think that is something really helpful to try and make the races more fair. Of course, with the race ranger, there's new dynamics as well, because if you're in the red, you need to overtake, you have a lot more searches, so that definitely plays a factor as well.
Okay. Looking at how the season's kicked off, I'm sure you're starting to get quite excited about starting your races. But we'll talk about the Ironman, and you may or may not, and Brett may or may not want to speculate on what you're capable of. But you must be looking at some of the run times in particular and thinking that, on your day, you're capable of running in that low 240 region. It maybe, if it happens this year or maybe next year, depending on whether you're going to LA or not, we'll hold that. But that you're not sitting there in absolute fear of what's happening with the running off the bike at the moment, I'm sure.
I haven't thought about it that way. I think I have quite a belief in myself that I am a good runner, that I also still have ways to improve my run, especially over the long distance. As I mentioned before, I wasn't allowed to race the marathon when I did my Ironman last year, so I wonder what would happen if I actually tried and go fast. So, I think especially Hawaii, I don't think there's going to be runs in the low, 240s for women. But I don't know, a 245 probably is possible. So it's hard to really say what is possible for myself, having not done too many Ironmans. But I think I can be up there with the quickest runners in Ironman distance. And I quite like as well to have one of the strongest, or to have my strength compared to the other athletes at the end of the race. It just gives you a possibility to fight until the end, knowing that you always have a chance.
Yeah. Well, if 251 is not racing an Ironman marathon, then it sounds like there's a little bit of room to improve.
Hopefully, of course,
Hopefully. Yeah. Well, look, and Kona, as you mentioned, is a different beast, and you referenced Singapore early on in the T100. If you're off by a little bit when you're getting to race in those environments, it makes it quite difficult. And I think even sort of in 2025 in Langkawi, where you raced, you ran a 1:24, but that's nothing to do with how fit you were at the time. It's just that it was a really hot environment to go racing in, and you really have to prepare for those environmental conditions for middle and long course racing.
Yeah, of course. It's also something I already started last year, and we are focusing on this year. Last year I did the Kona pre-camp with my sister. I just didn't travel the final leg.
Yeah.
But we actually did a heat camp of about 4 weeks, I would say, and I could experience what it is training in those conditions. Already this year we did a few weeks of training in on an island in China that is quite hot and humid as well. So just getting used to those conditions, getting more comfortable, understanding what is needed for training and also hard sessions when it's really hot, to not to say scared, just to know how to deal with the conditions. I think is really helpful and is a really important aspect as well to race on the big island.
Yeah, definitely. Well, fingers crossed that mid-year or June-ish Ironman goes to plan, because you're certainly one of the names that we all want to see on the Big Island in October racing, and I'm sure that you're going to be right up there with the fastest people out there on the day. So it's certainly something to be super, super excited to look forward to. But you've got your first race of the season coming up, so let's get that one underway before we worry about anything else.
Exactly.
But Julie, thank you so much for spending time with us today to tell us a bit more about your career to date and what your aspirations are going forward. We wish you all the best with your training, and we hope to catch up with you again sometime soon.
Thank you very much for having me. It's been a pleasure, and I hope to speak to you soon. Yeah.